My garden, probably like your garden, is a work in progress at all times. And what I like to do is build out one section of my garden at a time. That way it's easier to water, maintain, and look after, especially in those first few years as an area establishes. So what I wanted to do today was to give you an update on the side garden. That was our big project last year. We both built it and planted it. I have a previous video up on how we built the path. I'll share a little bit about how I feel about it 1 year later and what I wish we had done differently, and then give you an update on the plants, because I think that's what you're here for. Which perennials and shrubs I really loved and performed well, and what things didn't quite make it 1 year later. Right this way? Welcome to the side garden 1 year update. I specifically didn't tidy because I want to show you what things are awesome and what things I wish we did differently. And I wanted to give you that realistic perspective. So it's not that I was lazy and that's why I didn't clean up. It was really just for you and for science. I think the best plan is to structure this video. So we're starting with the tallest things. We'll start with the shrubs, and then we're going to go down to the perennials and then a ground cover that's been prolific in my garden. And I cannot take credit for the plant choices in this garden. I amended things and kind of influenced them, but I actually worked with a design company. Well, they're more than that. They're like a plant everything company. They're based out of Atlanta, but they have locations across the Southeast. And essentially, you can think of them as your design buddies. They have an AI-driven chat situation thing where you could take a picture of your landscape, put in there what you're looking for, and then it'll spit out not only a gorgeous concept, but also a plant list. And the best part is that all of the plants that their AI engine recommends are good for the Southeast because they are Southeast based. And that's what I love. I've played around with the ChatGPT AI features for landscape, and I've seen them make up plants or bring in plants that are not hardy to our zone. So this is a really great AI tool to get you dreaming about your landscape. I will put the link in the caption if you want to play with some difficult to design places in your yard. Essentially, we built the path. I sat on it forever, questioning all of my design choices. And that's when I reached out to Surfscape and partnered with them on this space. And I'm so happy I did, because I planted perennials that I otherwise wouldn't have selected and are now my favorites. So let's get into that. Let's start here with this hydrangea here. This is strawberry vanilla hydrangea. It's from first edition. I'm gonna go ahead and insert all the plant stats up there for you. This is an awesome hydrangea. It is more compact. It's supposed to turn pink in a southern landscape. We will see about that. I will say that if this year it doesn't turn pink in this spot, I might very much be tempted to switch this out for first edition's newest hydrangea. It's called Spring Sizzle. It actually turns pink, and actually almost a deep maroon in Atlanta. I saw pictures of it blooming pink in a trial garden in Athens, so it definitely gives me confidence that it is a panicle hydrangea that will turn pink. The verdict is still out on this one. Last year it was newly planted, so I want to give it another chance to show me that pink color. So if you see a video from me in a few months swapping out vanilla strawberry for their newest Spring Sizzle hydrangea, you know why. This is a panicle hydrangea, so it blooms on new wood. I love these types of hydrangeas because a late frost will not kill your flower show. And I'm just over babying and covering things in my garden. So things have to survive as they are planted. And this is one that definitely does that. Another great thing about panicle hydrangeas is it blooms this time of the year, where other perennials, especially the earlier spring, early summer blooming perennials, are kind of taking a break. I love panicle hydrangeas for that as well. Over here, this is a knockout rose because I want to keep things simple, and knockout roses keep things simple. The foliage is beautiful, even though we've had a pretty, I don't even know how to describe it, summer. It is a continually blooming rose. So if I don't get out here to deadhead, it's still going to keep the flower show going. And this is a beautiful coral color. This is the coral knockout rose. I don't know what to say about it. I know some people kind of turn their nose up at knockout roses and say that they're not considered to be real roses. But honestly, there are places in the landscape that you don't want to fuss with, you don't want to spray with, you don't want to baby, and you want that constant color show. That's where I turn to knockout roses. And I've had nothing but amazing experiences growing them in my garden. These coneflowers are my absolute favorite, and I have never grown them before. This is a native variety. This is Magnus coneflower. It is perfect. It's really, really, really full. This is a coneflower that I cut back, so it's been reblooming and sending out new shoots. Earlier in the season, it probably had about 40 blooms per plant. It was epic. It's still epic, and it's still pumping out color, and there are still new buds here on the plant for future color. So I'm a big fan of this echinacea. It's not an echinacea that grows super duper tall and then flops over. It's just a very well-behaved one, and I'm super glad that I planted it. This is another perennial that truly stood out and I wouldn't have otherwise selected. This is Scabiosa Blue Butterfly. It has pretty much been continually blooming since the spring. I'm just amazed at the flower power. That also means I need to come out here and deadhead from time to time, but I don't know. This color, it's just so worth it. This is a perennial that needs some pretty good drainage. I have really bad drainage in this area. I have pretty clay soil. This area was amended lightly with compost before planting, so I think that helps. Honestly, I was very wary as to whether or not this perennial would survive the winter and come back, and I'm really glad it did because it's been beautiful for 2 years now, and now that it's come back, I can say that I'm truly a fan. I love this perennial, and it's another one that I wouldn't have otherwise picked because I've always avoided it thanks to my clay soil. I generally tend to pick clay tolerant plants because I just want to avoid the heartbreak. And then this right here, I'm trying to decide if I like it or not. It is a very beautiful daylily. I'm removing the old flower canes. The thing that makes me hesitant on it is that the leaves are a mixture of green, healthy, beautiful leaves and also some scraggly, gross leaves. And it's kind of like that throughout the entire season. It does rebloom, which is really nice. There are new bloom stalks coming out throughout the season. So I do appreciate it for that. But it's one of those plants that maybe would be better behind something so you don't have to look at the yellowish foliage. And man, I guess that's just the way daylilies go. Excuse me, hydrangea. Hopefully you can see this. This is one of my favorite grasses to add, and I'm super sad because originally there were 3 here and 1 did not survive the winter. This is going to shoot out really beautiful, what do you call that on a grass? It's not a bloom stalk. Thingies? Thingies? I'm gonna insert a picture because they're stunning and all of a sudden the dementia has set in. But this is really great. It's a nice low growing grass, very well behaved, and I think an easy one to tuck into places where maybe you hadn't incorporated a grass before. I love the texture of this grass. It might be a little bit too grassy with the daylilies, and I don't know. I'm still on the fence for daylilies, but this is a great grass. I think the reason why I lost one of the 3 is because of my clay soil, so I would definitely recommend amending your soil well before planting and making sure that if you are planting, you don't end up accidentally planting it in a low spot where water might collect and then it just rots out. But otherwise, I love this grass. Since one of them died, I can't give this like a 10 out of 10 rating. I would give this a solid 8 out of 10. If I had immaculate soil, I'd give it a 10 out of 10 because I don't think it would have died. All right, let's move on to the lowest things planted, which are ground covers. I love using ground covers because it helps cut down the amount of mulch I need to add. And honestly, I think green and blooms look better than mulch anyways. This ground cover right here is a dianthus that reblooms throughout the season. Are you fragrant? It's not fragrant. Maybe lightly fragrant. It's not something that you would pick up from a distance. You'd have to get right there on the ground in order to see this. I'll put all the stats and the name here. This is also a dianthus that you're gonna need good drainage for, and there are some that I lost. So I would say if you have really clay soil like me, you're going to want to really amend the soil because otherwise you're gonna be a little bit disappointed and you're gonna lose some. This is going to fill out this area really beautifully, and I'm excited to use less mulch in this space because as you can see, the path does become a mess with the mulch that shifts, and ground covers aren't gonna shift like mulch will. And last but not least, this has been an absolute epic ground cover. This is the first time I've planted it. This is Mezus reptans. It's also a blooming ground cover, but the big show is more in spring. So in spring, this was covered with little blooms. There are white blooming and purple blooming Mezus varieties. The blooms are really nice, but what is even better is how thick this ground cover grows. I have had to pick out 0 weeds. It has completely replaced mulch in this area, and this was a spot that continuously got washed out by rains, and now I don't have to deal with it. When this was first planted last year, this whole carpet here was just dotted in. It's filled out beautifully within 1 year. And as it's growing, I've been taking a chunk of this, moving it to those trouble spots, and it fills out beautifully and just goes. So really great ground cover. It's pretty easy to control, very easy to just dig up and move if you want it somewhere else. And this is a ground cover that will be great in a variety of lighting conditions, which makes it super versatile. And I just can't say enough great things about this ground cover. If you're looking for something for those areas that are constantly getting washed out, this is gonna be awesome for you. Okay, moving on to the path. DIY projects are always learning experiences, and this one is definitely something that we've learned from. First off, I will say, and we probably already knew this, but the ground needs to be more level than you think it does. And we didn't do a great job leveling the path. So what happens is that we've had rocks shift over time, shifting more into the low spots and then overflowing into the mulch. And then because things aren't level, we also get mulch that runs off into the path during a storm. It's kind of a pain to separate out the mulch from the pebbles, and it turns into this chore that I wasn't looking to add to my life, honestly. Another thing that I wish we had done is not gone with this plastic edging. Is it super affordable? Yes, but it's a little bit too short. Maybe if this was level, it wouldn't be that big of a problem, but there's not enough height to prevent the pebbles and the mulch from just mixing together. So in the future, I would love to replace this with a taller metal edging. That might help keep things separated. And also in the future, I am kind of adding in rocks here and there, trying to control the water flow so that we don't get a mulch river that just runs off wherever. But I haven't quite figured that out yet. If you have, I would love to hear your solutions in the comments. It's a work in progress here. I've started strategically kind of placing rocks, but as water does do, it kind of goes around another way. It will always find a way through. And maybe I can turn things around through a combination of rocks and ground covers. Before you tell me I need a French drain, there is a French drain. Before we even started on this path, we added in a French drain. I think the quantity of water that comes through here because of the way our neighborhood is laid out just overwhelms the French drain and causes me all these problems that I didn't want to have, but such is life. Would I create this path again? 10 out of 10. I love this path. This used to be all grass and just weedy grass because of the lighting conditions here. And now it is a place that I love. I have a cut flower garden bed. I have all of these beautiful perennials to cut on and enjoy. The pollinators love this space. I just wish it was less work for me. So if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear it. I really like hearing about how spaces turned out, not just when the transformation happened, but a year later. What worked, what didn't work. So that was my motivation behind making this video. Hopefully this helps you pick smarter plant choices and maybe inspires you to transform your side garden into something more functional. It is about to start monsooning, so I'm gonna end this video by saying thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting me, for subscribing, for commenting. It all helps, and I appreciate you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next video.